And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world. It's I, John D. and Kanika, a.k.a. And Too Much Podcast. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fairly well, thank you.
That's good. So fairly well, I remember you used to say well, so now it's fairly well. Is that better than the wells you used to have?
No, it just reminded me of a song we used to sing in church about fairly well. So I said fairly well. I'm doing well. All is good.
So fair, isn't fair like a synonym for like white or light?
Ooh, are you doing that to me?
I just wondering. People say they fair skin.
You know what? No, we ain't doing that today.
No, I'm just playing with you.
I know.
What's on your mind this morning?
So, here we go with fair. So I was thinking about fighting fair in relationships, right? And so there were two things that came to mind, but this is my first one. So let me get the whole thing out before you start responding, because we've dealt with this a lot. So should you be allowed to pull examples from the past in an argument? Hold on. So some would say that's bringing up old stuff and that you already got past and you shouldn't be discussing it anymore. But I don't know, because I feel like others would say, you know, I remember you used to be like, why are you bringing up old stuff? Like, we're past that or whatever. Mm-hmm. But some would say, instead of looking at it as bringing up old stuff, it's really just like exposing a pattern of behavior.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've definitely done this. And in earlier years of the marriage, you'd say I was bringing up old stuff. Now it could be like opening a new wound again for that partner, whether it's the partner that feels like they're being attacked or the one that's bringing it out. It could be opening up a wound or whatever. And there are a lot of feelings that'll boil up that have to be addressed. But which do you think is the best way to handle this? Like, does addressing the past and present set a relationship back or push it forward? Because it could be seen as pushing you back if everybody is all riled up about the fact that we're talking about old stuff. But could it be pushing it forward because it seems like you're at the point where you're trying to expose patterns so that you can address behavior?
I guess it just depends on who the two people are. When I hear you say bringing up old stuff, I definitely get the idea of showing a pattern. Because if you're not, then what are you doing it for? When you bring up old stuff, that means you haven't gotten over it, or the person is still continuously reminding you that that pattern is out there. So the only reason why you would bring up old stuff is because it hasn't been fixed. So I don't have a problem with you bringing up old stuff, but it needs to be brought up in a way where the person understands they are, they're showing the same thing for me to remember, that there's old stuff out there. Like in the relate, like with you and me, I don't think you will ever be able to bring up old stuff again, because I'm always trying to fix it. Like, I don't want it to happen again. Anything that's been a problem before, like I like when we talk, I don't see you saying you did this. Like, you know, it's like for you to show a pattern. Before, it used to be like that. Even me, you know what I'm saying? But I think you bringing up old stuff because something is reminding you of that feeling, and you don't want that feeling anymore. And it's not that you're bringing it up on purpose, but the person is not preventing that feeling from leaving. Because you can't bring it up unless it bothers you.
Now, I'm not going to act like people don't use this as a manipulative tactic, though, sometimes.
See, I don't know anybody that does that on purpose.
Well, this is my thing. So say we're getting into it and you feel like you're losing, not you, but the other person feels like they're losing the argument. You remember how you used to, now it's you remember how you used to throw me off of something with something that didn't.
Because I only cared about winning.
Right. So we have to look at it two different ways. So bringing up old stuff, it could be to hurt but it could also be to build the relationship. Because if you bring up old stuff, if you find a way to take that one little, if you find a way to take that one little piece of the conversation and you be like, this is what I'm about to focus on. Because that's what some people do.
But that's the intent is wrong.
Yeah. So bringing up old stuff then, I mean, I guess it's not really setting the relationship back even then, because the relationship ain't going nowhere, no way. If we're still in that part where we're trying to manipulate and bring people, like throw them off of the trail so that there can't be any progression.
But I don't
because
think
you're not winning.
I don't think anybody's doing that to do what you just said. They're doing that because they think in an argument, they know what it feels like to win. And if they feel like they win, they didn't do anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I can convince you that I didn't do anything wrong, like I won.
Yeah.
So
but
that's
then the
all.
Relationship doesn't go forward.
But nobody's that into the idea of what relationship really is, because I didn't think like this before.
No, I know.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know men that think like this at all.
So really it's where you are in the relationship that's going to determine whether or not it's going to push you
If people
forward.
are bringing up old stuff still, they're poor communicators. Somebody's a poor communicator. Somebody's not receiving the message, because at the end of the day, if somebody brings up something old, they're still hurt. Somebody's reminded you of that hurt. And then that's why you bring it up. Because if the person stops the behavior, nobody's going to say, you used to do it like.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But to expose a pattern of behavior, like say stuff is going on
I know,
right
but
now.
even if you are exposing it, you have to say it in a way for the person to receive it so they can stop it. Because you're just like, if they knew that it's showing a pattern, right now they're just trying to win. Like, I ain't did nothing wrong. The way she's looking at it is completely wrong.
Right.
I have to win this so she knows that I'm right.
Okay.
If I'm right, then we can keep moving on. But so it's almost like I tricked you to believing that nothing's wrong, but you know something's wrong. I don't think anything's wrong because I really think I'm doing everything right. So you're trying to show me a pattern, but I'm playing a different game. You're trying to grow, and I'm like, I just got to win this so she know that I'm not doing anything on purpose. You don't know how to say, hey, this is reminding me of what you used to do. Like, but I'm not doing that anymore. I know, but I still feel the same way. And then that's me. You got insecurities because I ain't nothing going on.
Yeah.
So you have to say, no, look, I don't know what it is, but whatever you're doing, I don't like the way that I'm feeling. Are you going to help me figure it out? Or are you going to say it's something where the person has to say, okay, what am I doing for her to feel this way? And if you don't do that to the person, they're playing a different game. And they're not doing it on purpose, though. They just feel like that's what you're supposed to do in a relationship.
Win.
Like to win to argue. That means you didn't do anything wrong. Well, that's the way that I interpret it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't want anybody to think like I'm just telling you this is.
Yeah, because I'm asking about you, not about.
Yeah, I know, but when I come up with that, I'm only saying things that I've recognized in other men. Also, I'm not gonna say something that just specifically separates me from somebody. Okay. This is behaviors that I see in all men. Well, in men that I've had conversations about, because a lot of my decision making came from what other men were doing. Because I didn't know what to do, so I'm not gonna ask you. So what am I supposed to do right now? Yeah. So this is me giving a fair assessment of what other men I think are thinking the same. Also, I mean, I will say this. I mean, I know that there are bright men out there, but majority of us don't have any type of male figures that could have guided us on a path of a healthy relationship. Like, everybody's doing it their own way. Like, and guess what might be leading them on? Television.
Yeah, because you know how that be having me all spun. So, and that's interesting because, there's a lot of self-discovery and reflection and stuff going on in the current generation. Like, in this time in our lives, it's a lot of trying to find the trauma, stop the bleeding, figure out how to grow, heal, grow, and all of that other stuff. I mean, for men and women. And I'm wondering, in a lot of our conversation, you talk a lot about, because we don't have examples. We don't have anybody to show us. We don't have this. We don't have that. But it's coming. What do you think that's going to look like for relationships? Now, I'm going to ask in two different ways. What do you think that's going to look like for relationships, one, in the Black community? Because I'm always, we have these issues with Black men and Black women and not, I think we've had conversations before about Black women have this specific type of trauma that can be really difficult for people to swallow. And most Black men don't want to or don't know how to even help them get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But with all of this growth and reflection and healing that everybody is doing, what do you think that's going to look like for us? But my other way of looking at it is, what do you think that's going to look like for men as a whole? Like Dallas, I know what Dallas will possibly look like as an adult, but now we're going to have these young men who are going to be raised by these healed men.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that's going to look like?
It's going to be dope. And I think we'll be able to see it too, because I think that once there's an example of a man that's continuously finding better versions of himself, he automatically has the energy to rub off. Like other people, like, what is he doing? Mm-hmm. And I think the world, like the evolution of relationships we haven't seen an awesome, I'm no lie. If you think about throughout the course of time, what is the most popular relationship you can think of that people talk about? Now, I can't think of one.
Yeah, me either.
Like, and if it was, the woman was never just as important as the man. It was just the important man's wife. And they may have done charities or whatnot, but overall, it wasn't about the relationship. I believe once you have men that understand that relationships can grow if you literally work on them, like, and I think that's what's happening. I believe you and I are an example of purposely working on a relationship. And that's the reason why I say that our language is different from other relationships. Like, the product is our kids going to see, okay, this is what they did when they got upset. Mm-hmm. This is like, they have better options of what it looks like. So imagine if you have kids that have an example of a father who somewhat looks like an emotionally intelligent father. Mm. That's a different kid you're raising. He's going to be more considerate of like help versus punish. Mm-hmm. Like when men are not emotionally intelligent, it's all about the toughest, the strongest, the loud. It's like anything with an EST on it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be extra. You got to do this. You got to be there. Or somebody's going to take it back. Mm-hmm. But if you're an effective communicator, nobody's going to do anything. Like you can. He's like, hey, man, I'm the wrong person. I'm sorry, whatever happened. But if you have any of that, you're going to balance that energy with this person who wants the problem. Mm-hmm. So imagine a bunch of kids like, hey, I'm sorry that happened to you. What is it that we can do for you to not feel that way? And I believe that when you got more young men that are not like trying to be the biggest and baddest, mm-hmm. that they'll have a different type of relationship. I think women or whoever they end up having a relationship with it'll grow. It'll grow in a way where they haven't seen before. Like, people don't want to be in relationships because everybody's trying to take advantage of everybody. Like, you can't just, it's like, and I'll say this is the reason why I totally believe in what we're doing. Most relationships fail because of finances and infidelity. If you can see a relationship where a person can explain why infidelity won't ever happen or they won't ever fall for money. Their relationship can only grow. Like, no matter what the chatter is outside, like, it doesn't matter. And I think that as time goes on, you're going to see more people that are not distracted by the nonsense. And people will just imagine if guys got to know women versus wanting to knock them down first. It was like, you know what? I'm not just about to have sex with anybody. I'm having sex with somebody that I feel like I can literally grow with. And I can't figure that out by having sex with them. So if I'm going to have sex with somebody, I got to really just like them as a person. And they start putting on like, we're not going to have sex for a year. Let's see if this is even worth it, because we don't have time for accidents, especially if we don't like each other. So if men are like, women would love to think like that.
Yeah.
But women want to do what they think men want. But if men ever become, like I said, emotionally intelligent, women don't have to compromise themselves for a scumbag.
Yeah, the thing is, you compromise for what he wants, or you just understand that you're going to have to walk away and that's not an option. Yeah, I hear you on that one. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, so that is for men, yeah, and in relationships, yeah. I think the next generation of these young men and young women, I think coming from these healed places, and not necessarily, it doesn't mean that your parent has to be the one that's actively trying to heal, but having more of us in the community surrounding them that can kind of, because you don't just get from your parents.
Correct.
You get from everyone around you.
I mean, look, this is what I learned this morning or yesterday morning. Like, if the kid senses that the parent is not responsible, the information is coming from the environment.
Yeah, they're gonna find it somewhere where.
No, if they don't believe that the parent is responsible, they will get it from because there's got to be a better way than this. And this is as young as 3 or 4.
Wow.
Yes, like if they feel unsafe, they're getting their guidance from somewhere else where they feel like it could be easier.
And you've been actually in a few opportunities to get trained on trauma lately, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the information I'm learning from that.
Yeah, I think that that's so interesting when you think about the kids. They're actively seeking. Somebody said to me, they're like, sit there and think about who you are as a person. And let me ask you this, because they said that this is what it is. If you look at yourself, you are the person you would have felt most safe with as a child.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I know I am. Like, that's what I want every kid to feel like, though.
Yeah. But it's weird because it's like you're the person that you were looking for as a little person, trying to be safe, trying to learn, but I know a lot of people that are still like trapped in their trauma. So what is it like for them? Like, who would they feel safest with? You know what I mean? Because it's not even them. Or maybe it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, because you don't, like, whatever you master that gave you trauma, you know how to keep it away from whoever your audience is.
Well, and it reminds me of a conversation a parent recently said to their kid, like, I'm trying to give you game. And the kid was like, I don't want your game. And so it reflects what you were saying. That kid is like, I don't want it. Whatever you got, I don't want it. But that parent literally felt like they had what was necessary to give their kid to set them out. Yeah, in the environment you grew up in the life you've had.
Yeah.
So I guess even those people who are still like living as an unsafe person, they are safe from something.
Yeah.
The trauma they had. So I'm trying to put, like, that's not even my struggle. Like, what you struggle with ain't even mine. So your game doesn't really apply. And and now that makes even more sense to me now when I'm saying they can't possibly feel like they're the adult they would feel most safe with. But they do too.
Yeah.
Even if they themselves are not a safe adult.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. like with the trauma aspect, majority of adults have not dealt with their own trauma. Like some of the most people that we considered polished, like they were really good at making things disappear too, sweeping it up under the rug. And it was like they just didn't deal with it. And I, like when you were talking about what is it going to look like, I believe that more of my friends are in therapy than ever. And I feel like they already started the healing process, that their sons and daughters are watching, that this is okay. And they're going to be able to see the change in their parent. Like, okay, they were doing this. Okay, I saw it get better. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like young men who are exposed to any man that kind of breaks the what's right to do in life, like on television,
right?
Because they only talk about the negative stuff. They don't talk about the stuff that actually works. And I feel like once you can, because you know what you say, if you don't see it, you only get it from television. Yeah. So if you see somebody that you trust and believe, and it's okay, then that's just another hole that you're filling in that you would have missed if you didn't see that man doing it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's with me. Like, I mean, I remember that there were times where I was like, I'm not going to therapy. Like, ain't nothing wrong with me. And I really felt like nothing was wrong with me. But even if I felt that way, I was supposed to go to convince myself that nothing was wrong with me. You know?
I remember when I was telling you, I was trying to expose your patterns when we were younger. And you told me, no, something wrong with you. You need to be going to therapy. I was like, oh my God. And then I went to therapy. He was like, you need to tell him to go to therapy. like, I promise to God.
You know, when you can tell somebody, not in a helpful way, but it's like, you need some therapy. Like, hey, you know,
to get you off my back.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with you.
like, let's say, like, even now, like if I say, hey man, you probably need some therapy, like it's a different type. That was a different response when I said it then.
Yeah, you was trying to throw me off your track. But you know, it's
oh, I know I wasn't. I really felt like you needed some therapy. Like, no, I wasn't lying. It wasn't throw you off. It was like,
oh, look, when I went in there, I was like, okay, let me give you the entire rundown. And the therapist was like, you need to tell him that he need to go in and see somebody. But yeah, that man, you know, it's funny because you sit here and you think about all that time that our families were telling one another, you need to just go to church.
That was the therapy.
Go talk to the pastor, and that was the therapy. And then now when you realize, like, so we delayed this healing for generations because, and I'm not even going to act like we had adequate therapists who would even understand us culturally to be able to walk us through that anyway. No. So really the church was probably the best place that previous generations could even think of to go to.
I think that was really just hope. It wasn't therapy. It was just like go for maybe we could find somebody professional enough that can help us instead of depend on praying for a miracle.
That's true. Go talk it out with somebody that cares about you, somebody that'll listen, and you know, I'm grateful that the world has evolved as much as it has to allow for those resources for us now, because we deep in the trenches of trauma at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, at least it's daylight though. Like, and at least we can recognize it. Yeah. Like people know that this is a real thing. Yeah. You know, and we can talk about it. Even if we don't know an experience, everybody's dealt with trauma. And I think if we all are familiar with how to deal with it, we won't say things to unintentionally trigger somebody. Because, or if we do, we know that we did it. But if we're not aware or educated on what it is and what it can do to your decision making, to how you sound, or just how you look at life, it's like we're just still trying to figure it out. So I feel like we're getting a lot closer. And to your question with, what does it look like? I think honestly, I don't think it'll be no more wars. I think people will communicate to the point where they'll figure it out. What's the best interest of mankind versus, some borders, some to some title of a country or whatnot. We're all people, and I think that once men get the therapy they need, then maybe the men that run the world won't be so mean and narrow-minded when it comes to just people. Because it's, if you think about history, it's all about conquering. It's about who got the most of this, and it's like, is that what this is about? So if men can heal themselves, and I don't know how long it would take, but if men could heal, maybe women could help us figure it out.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, let me circle back to when we were talking about originally in the men and women interacting with one another and trying to solve problems together. So we try to solve the problem, right? I bring up the pattern. It's okay. We work our way through it. The behavior is identified, and he's like, or she is like, whoever was at fault was like, they were like, okay, you know what? I see what you're saying, and I'm sorry, or I apologize. When they apologize, do they need to say what they're apologizing for?
Yeah, because y'all could be talking about two different things.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, the person apologizing, they really believe they're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
So they may very well didn't do what they said they weren't going to do again, but you saw something.
We had this whole conversation and you apologized, and then next week we got the same problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So look, that's not even me knowing what you were even coming up with. That's me.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know.
Yeah. I think that once you get down to it and you've solved the problem, there are a lot of things that's like, well, you know what, I'm sorry. And you be like, oh, I apologize. I don't ever want you to feel that way. Like, understanding and maybe teaching also others that I need to know what behavior are you identifying that you don't ever intend to do again.
If you want it to be effective.
Because you could be apologizing for something that has absolutely nothing to do with how I started this conversation, what I'm interested in, and now.
But that's communication, though.
Yeah.
Like even no matter how effective you are, if you're not getting feedback, following up to make sure the person heard what you heard, you're just as poor as he is.
Yeah. That's in counseling, we used to always talk about how you have to you rephrase or you paraphrase what someone says so that you're clear on what it is they want and what they think. And
at least let them hear it outside from their mouth.
Yeah. One of my favorites is, okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, or what I'm hearing is, and then you run it down, and when they say, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, then you can say, I apologize for that.
Exactly.
And I won't, that's how you all are walking away from the conversation and the conversation is done.
I remember still February 3rd.
You and February 3rd.
Yeah, because that was the day when I got it.
Yeah.
And you was like, John, we were just having this conversation. And you said you got it before. I was like, yeah, but I know now. I was like, look, I was going to do it again. I was going to do it again.
Yeah, I think we had been fighting for over a month of different aspects of this situation. And finally, on one day,
because it was something that you said, and I was like, is this what you mean? And I was just like, oh my God. You was like, John, you told me you read that letter and you understood.
Look, it was like Ross and Rachel. Not 18 pages. Yeah. I wrote a really long email? And I used to, and we've said this before in arguments, I used to write emails because I felt like you had time to process it. You could see the words. You could probably interpret it. You think it over multiple times before instead of talking about it. Man, I thought we had solved that problem about 6-7 times over that month. And it just kept coming back.
I want y'all to know why I remember February 3rd. Because as time goes on, she told me she was considering leaving. And I was like, oh my God, if I didn't get it, like life would have been different. So that's why I remember it, because I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, that's why I said, if you would have left, I would have went crazy, because I would have been like, I don't even understand. So if you do leave, you definitely won't have any time to like try to explain it to me, because now you want to get on with your life. Yeah. So that's why I said February 3rd is real. Like, all I kept thinking about, like, if I didn't get it, what it would look like. And I'm like I didn't want to not get it on purpose. I'm like, so that's when I realized communication is so important, because I was like, even though you thought you were saying it, I wasn't receiving it.
Yeah.
And, like, you were just getting like, I'm like, well, now I look back, I'm like, I know I was a poor communicator, but I don't think you realized that you weren't as good as just because those words was coming out. Like, you was like, look, this is about as simple as it can get.
Yeah. I was like, golly, how many different ways can I say this?
Yeah. So, but now, I mean, like, yeah, like I look back and like, if men truly understood, men act on what they think they know. So when
somebody would be like, well, I'm sorry. And somebody be like, what are you sorry for? And then they get pissed.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the way you said it. He was like, hey, you don't give them no caveat. Be like, hey, before we get past that, I know that you said you're sorry, but I just want to make sure that you're saying sorry for something that I'm upset about. I'm not for the whole situation or my feelings, but the sorry means you're not going to do it again. So what aren't you going to do again?
And then that's the other thing is, like, when people say, like, I was watching somebody talk about how you apologize to somebody, and don't say, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Don't apologize for my feelings. Apologize for what you did that made me feel that way.
See, that's
Wouldn't that be like looking at the real issue, like not how I responded to
it. But the person that says that, they're saying that because that's like somebody said it before. They're not thinking what it to whatever anybody analyzed on how people feel, like whatever. Nobody says that for you to feel that way.
Yeah, I know. But I think that when someone says, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, or I'm sorry you felt like that, it's that moment in which you have to catch it, because you don't want to make me sad. But are we clear on what happened?
Of course
that
not.
Made me feel sad. Yeah. And so sometimes I'm like, I apologize to you because I don't ever want you to feel that way. Yes. But what was it that made me feel that way, so that I know that we both know, like looking eye to eye, that the behavior won't ever happen again. Not that you don't want me to feel that way. That is the reason why I feel like saying what was the action, is most important.
But that's effective communication, though. Yeah. Like, with all what you just said, like, you have to be aware that you're not a good communicator for you to even consider what you just said.
Well, I think that what I wanted out of that is just to, if anybody was listening, to say, okay, I apologize, but when you apologize and you say, I never want you to feel that way. I apologize.
Do the extra question to make sure.
Yeah. But what was it?
Yeah.
So that I don't ever feel this way because of this.
Because if it happens again, it's your fault.
Because you didn't specify.
Yes.
Like, let me make sure that when we're closing this door, we're closing the door with the right understanding. Me and you are on the same page. Because I could sit there and say that the whole time I've been harping you about this action that you did, and then in the end you apologize that I was hurt, and that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I like that. I think everybody who listens to this is going to get a lot out of that, because I feel like it'll help relationships evolve into something that I'm looking forward to. Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so today. You?
Yeah, shout out to my wife for having the patience for all the multiple ways she thought she was explaining something, and I still didn't know what she was talking about.
Call me Jobina.
But I didn't know I had a communication problem at that point. And I think that was like when I was starting to work on communication. I was like, I got to do something because I'm definitely being misunderstood way too often. But shout out to her. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA. Get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.